Okay, I'm joined in the studio by my guest, the sports commentator Ade Olajide. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. We have to start with the international friendlies.
Yeah.
England against the Republic of Ireland. Does anyone actually care about these friendlies, about these international friendlies?
A lot of, a lot of football fans around the world do care. Observers do care. It is a almost like a home rivalry. So people are expecting a little bit more fireworks, and but it was just very, very dull. There were great players on show. We had the likes of the troubled Sterling playing as well. A lot of pressure on him. Perhaps it affected the way some of the players played. And you have to take into consideration the season is over. Some people are in holiday mode at the moment, so it's difficult to get excited.
You've got to turn up for your country, you know? What's going on? What went wrong today?
A few guys were given the opportunities. Jamie Vardy came in, the likes of Republic of Ireland also played some new players as well. They had a goalkeeper from Sheffield United, if I'm correct, Westwood keeping in there. So it was almost a trial for some other players. The coaches were trying to feel out each other and preparing for their important matches next week.
Yeah. Well, what else do they need to do to get the excitement back into international friendlies? Because even the broadcasters over here that were broadcasting the rights to this international, they apologised.
Absolutely. I think international friendlies should be part of a mini competition, and it should be doing. I think it should be during the season when the players they've got their energies flowing. The competitions in their leagues, Premier League, Spanish leagues all over the world is taking place at the moment, so they have reasons to really go out there and perform. Because some of them are not getting into their club sides, so going into the international friendlies to perform and then perhaps coming back into the club sides will give them an opportunity to play more games. But having competitions like this at the end of the season when there's really nothing to play for, some players are being allowed to come in, others are being given the day off saying they're injured and stuff like that.
Where do you stand on the whole, the whole tournament playing friendlies or exhibition games right after the season's finished?
I think it makes no sense because the players, you can tell that they're not as eager as they would have been if it was during the season, if there was more to play for. Those guys were really on holiday. We saw players being robbed of the ball, and they had no reasons to chase after players that took the ball off them.
You don't want to be injured, I suppose.
Exactly. This is time for you to go on a one-month break and perhaps be on the beach somewhere around the world.
Yeah, go to Dubai, because they're all going to Dubai right now. Sticking with football, and we're going to have a look at the Women's World Cup. At the moment, it's Germany that are beating, I want to say thrashing, the Ivory Coast 8-0. Now, after the tournament, I know I'm looking quite far ahead. Do you see that the game's going to evolve even more?
Absolutely. The last World Cup, it was reported that they had about 400 million viewers around the world, and this World Cup actually was being projected to have about 1 billion viewers around the world until the FIFA scandal that has taken a little bit of publicity out of it. Women's football has continued to grow in popularity over the last decade. I absolutely enjoy watching competitions like the World Cup, the under-19s, even the league matches and the FA Cups. Fantastic. So the World Cup only does nothing more than good for the game going forward.
That's good. So do you think it can restore the credibility, especially after the FIFA scandal? I mean, a lot happens in a week.
Of course. Football is, I say that there's only one PR tool around football, and that is the game itself on the pitch. Once people start to watch matches from today, tomorrow, the day after, the conversation turns to the football on the pitch, to performances by the women and the men that play around the world, and it takes away all the bad or negative publicity that we've seen with the administration in
I know it's very early on, but goals are flying in left, right and centre right now.
Even though it's early on, it's difficult to look past the likes of USA and Germany. They both have won 3 competitions individually. Now you've seen how Germany have started off this competition, scoring 8 goals, and the match is still being played. It shows the dominance that they have. They've got individual players that have dominated the world football in terms of women football for a decade. And you look at the United States of America, they've been forerunners in professional football for women. If we look back at 20 years ago, they had a professional league in the 90s for women where everybody was going to. It was almost like the Spanish or the Premier League in their time. So you cannot look past those two. And of course, the Asian teams come into play as well, China and Japan.
Yeah. Well, let's have a quick talk about FIFA, we have to touch upon it as well. The relationship between Blatter and CAF and African football. Now, what are your views on that relationship? Because I've spoken to a few people this week, and some have said that he's been great for the game in terms of business sense, but when it comes to the grassroots, he hasn't done much.
It's difficult to judge how much he can do for grassroots football in Africa because he's got leaders there. They've got the Confederations of African Football. They have FA chairmen in different countries there. So what he's done is direct funds towards CAF and Africa and let the leaders do as they please sometimes. But the reason a lot of African leaders around the world and perhaps football fans in Africa see Sepp Blatter as a good thing for Africa is because he's promised a few things which he's done. During his administration, the amount of countries that have played or performed at the World Cup has increased to 5. And during the 2010 World Cup, we had 6 African nations competing in the World Cup. He has, you know, when the criticism came about the vuvuzelas, he said it was part of their culture. Let it be there.
So he's understanding.
Absolutely.
He's not shutting Africa out. Do you think that other FAs have probably done that, or other countries have done that?
I don't think a lot of the European FAs have taken advantage of some of the personal relationships they can have in Africa. If you look at the likes of the FA here in England and in France, they could build bilateral relationships with Nigeria, Ghana, the Ivory Coast and Cameroon, and FIFA is doing that.
10-0 to Germany. It's just going to carry on, isn't it? It's still going on.
It needs to stop now.
I know, but let's carry on with our talk and FIFA and Blatter and, you know, its relationship with Africa. Let's have a look at the other scandals that have emerged, because not a lot of media outlets have actually paid attention to that. A lot of focus has been on Africa, South Africa. France, 98, the bid there. What are your views?
Chuck Blazer mentioned, I think part of the interview was that the 2010 World Cup and the 1998 World Cup in France were subject to, you know, bribery and whatever you would like to call it, as well as the fact that during this interview process or during this news breaking out process, we found out as well that the likes of Ireland were paid some money not to contest France's win to go to the World Cup. However, one of the apprehensions that the African nations and CAF has had with the UEFA and European FAs is the fact that anytime it seems that Africa is in the spotlight, they take headlines. France 98.
Why?
Yeah, that's what everybody wants to know. How come? France 98 was subject to this investigation because Chuck Blazer mentioned France 98. However, nobody has paid attention to that. But what came out today is that perhaps Morocco allegedly won the votes for the bid for the 2010 World Cup, and something might have swayed it South Africa's way. One thing that's for sure was that it was going to end up in Africa. However, something swayed it the way that people didn't like it. But people were still saying the likes of France 98 still need to be spoken about a lot more. What happened? Which money changed hands? Which names were mentioned? Nobody's known that, and we wonder why.
And I'm pretty sure it will come out at some point. But let's have a look at South Africa. I remember that World Cup. I know a lot of people do. And it was brilliant. Now, with all this scandal, will it cast a shadow over such a brilliant tournament?
I doubt. In Africa, no. Because as far as Africans are concerned, an opportunity came that the World Cup came to Africa, and it was all embraced. Even though it was hosted by South Africa, the entire African continent embraced the World Cup and felt it was almost like an announcement that we're part of the world footballing body. However, internationally, it might be a different story. The fact that we're hearing $10 million, we don't know what happened, where they paid to vote, that might tarnish the World Cup in itself. But it was a fantastic competition, and we cannot, you know, deny the fact that the vuvuzelas, the competition, the goals, absolutely, and it was in the sunshine as well in South Africa. It was really, really good for FIFA and for the world of football as well.
Well, how can CAF move forward from this? Are they going to put up a candidate for presidency?
People have raised that question. Some of the people that have been touted as possible candidates, like Aisha Johansson, she said point blank that she's not ready for such a huge position, and it looks like CAF in itself don't have someone ready to take on that position. As well. So it looks like for the moment, CAF will just have to look at a candidate internationally that they would like to back, but one that's going to be ready to support the African cause.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this develops. Now, moving on to boxing as well. Miguel Cotto retained his WBC middleweight world title. Now, What about the fight between Alvarez and Cotto? How do you see that emerging? Is it going to be huge? Is it going to be...
It is going to be one of the biggest fights ever to be staged in the world of boxing. These are two fighters. In the boxing world, you've got technicians and you've got fighters and brawlers that come into the ring. Alvarez and Cotto are brawlers. If you watch their last fights, they knocked out their opponents within the first. This would be fantastic for boxing, and it's been coming for a while. Unfortunately, they had to go their sideways and taking different opponents, but now that they've called each other out again, it's just going to be incredible for the sport.
Well, let's throw Golovkin into this as well. Are they the three to revive boxing again?
Absolutely. These are knockout specialists. Golovkin has not completed a 12-round bout in his professional career. He's just won his 20th fight in a row via way of knockout as well. He is an incredible puncher. These guys will definitely promote boxing the way we want to see it. Knockouts have been seen in the heavyweight categories in the past. However, the middleweight and the lightweights are now getting...
Well, talking about money, we've got to mention Mayweather. He said that his fight might be in September. Yeah. But if Alvarez and Cotto do fight in September, do you think a lot of eyes will be on them rather than Mayweather?
Yes. They left the May celebrations to Mayweather to enjoy that, the Cinco de Mayo celebrations. So if they're going at each other in September, it will definitely be on them and not Mayweather.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for tonight.